Well, there's now just 4 months from the NRL season for 2025 kicking off, and we're starting to take shape this off-season, starting to see the new look Parramatta Eels, an era of a rebuild beginning. And in this video, I'm going to speak about this rebuild, what's been happening over the last couple months, the last 12 months, the sort of shape that the club has been in the last, say, 2 to 3 years, and why I'm excited for the 2025 season. So let's start this video off with the recruitment. Now, the recruitment has been an issue at Parramatta for a lot of years now, but more recently, we've been letting go some young talent, especially, Blaze Taulagi, Ethan Saunders, especially backup sort of players as well. Even if they're not in the first grade team, the depth wasn't there. Now, the thing I'm excited about for 2025 is there's been some nice signings in depth. The main one being Dean Hawkins from the South Sydney Rabbitohs. I do rate him as a player. I don't think he gets a spot in the starting 17 unless he comes off by the bench in a different role, maybe a 9, but he's a half for me, and I believe that when Moses is off playing Origin duty, or if there was another injury to Dylan Brown, who unfortunately has been a little bit injury prone as of late, but I just think the recruitment's done a really good job. Now, obviously, a lot of people will sit here and say, how can you say that when someone like Gutherson has spent his entire, time with the Parramatta Eels besides 2 games for the Manly Sea Eagles, and now they've left him to the Birds over at the Dragons? Well, the thing about Gutherson is the club has looked for the future, not just present. Now, a lot of clubs look for a premiership window of a 2-year, 3-year period, whereas Parramatta aren't too worried, in my opinion, about a premiership this coming year, but building towards that and becoming successful based off there. There's been some great signings. Josh Addo-Carr has been announced to come to the club on a 2-year deal, but after that they can sort of discuss their options. And, obviously did some bad things this season, but he's going to put those behind him. You've seen this guy being an Origin representative. You've seen him play for Australia. You've seen him play for the Melbourne Storm and win premierships, so such a big name there. Now, Zach Lomax is part of this rebuild, and it's such a great thing to finally see him in Parramatta Eels colours. I've mentioned this before, you can't give this to Riles because this was a Brad Arthur move. And look, Brad Arthur did a great job as the Eels coach for a long time, but it has started to come to light, especially by players on podcasts, things like that, that there were issues there and players weren't always happy. So now, speaking about recruitment side of things, you've now got a new coach in charge. So Jason Ryle has been knocking on the door. He's been going through successful systems with the Roosters, the Storm. I could be wrong, but I think he was even a assistant Super League coach. But this guy has been waiting for this opportunity, and here he is making his mark. Now, it's tough to say this because obviously Parramatta have not stepped on the field yet for the 2025 season, and the results are what is going to matter, not the talking. But I just think the confidence within the playing group looks very different. I think that Jason Riles, the way that he approaches questions, the way he speaks to the media, and the transparency of the treatment of fans to start this to end this season has been great. If you're a member of the Parramatta Eels, you may not be a member, but if you're a member, we're receiving emails with updates about players re-signing. Before the media breaks this news, they want fans to know. And I think our social media team, who I thought was a little bit off in the last couple of years, there was some really cringy stuff, and even the tweets against team at the beginning of last year, that really, really pissed me off. But social media team, it's not this season, but coming into this season, looking very good, putting up some fantastic posts, providing updates about injury. There is just so much within the club, and everyone seems to be happier within the club because there's been issues for a long time. But former player like Peter Sterling coming out and making a video about this club, what they want it to be. The fan interaction had been an issue there for a while. It's started to get better towards the back half of the season there, and this club definitely cares more about its fans than it did in the last 2 years. Now, Parramatta were living off this sort of high in 2022, losing the NRL Grand Final, but being part of that spectacle, the 2022 Grand Final, and they had that as a pass mark. Players left the club, Reid Marnie, Isaiah Papali'i. The club didn't go so well in 2 years now, back-to-back years, and last year, arguably, probably should have won the wooden spoon, but we're lucky to avoid it with a 60-point win over the West Tigers there. But yeah, there was issues there that have been addressed now. Now, I mentioned the recruitment. That's exciting. Zach Lomax, Josh Adokar, Jack Williams, Dean Hawkins. They're looking at other props as well. We'll see what happens. But I believe there's only 2 spots left in the top 30. So I don't think there'll be many more sort of signings. And the depth, Joash Papali'i has apparently really been impressing at training. Isaiah Yongi, who I forgot to mention as well, we haven't seen too much of him, but he looks to be our new long-term fullback. And for this rookie coach to come in and have this trust with this playing group is massive. And he's expecting these big things. You know, round 1, we take on the Storm down there in Melbourne, and Melbourne haven't lost a round 1 game in 20-something years. You've got Craig Bellamy, who taught Jason Ryles a lot of the things he knows, and you've got a lot of Storm players that it's only rumours, but a lot of Storm players want to follow in the footsteps and eventually join Parramatta. You know, you've got this reunion between Adokar and Jason Ryles. Are we going to have some more Storm players? Probably. There is a no poaching clause for the first 12 months of the contract, but we'll see what happens in 2026. But the way that this club has interacted with its fans, the transparency, which has been an issue for years, and it's been great to see, the excitement of this playing group. There was a fan day today, which I actually couldn't get to, but I heard everyone had a great day at the fan day. I heard the players loved it, because the fan day last year, or this year gone in February, was absolutely awful. If you're watching this Parramatta, why would you put a fan day in just this little area? And, you know, it was awful. Please let me know. If you were at the fan day in 2024 and you enjoyed it, please let me know, because I'm pretty sure no one would have enjoyed it. You didn't even get to meet players. You had to line up for an hour to meet one particular player in different areas, standing across the city. It just didn't work. But there's been some great fan days in the past, in the days of, you know, Blake Ferguson at the club and that sort of thing. Even Reid Marnie's first year when they had the tents and stuff at it was on a farm, I forget where it was, somewhere around Kellyville, that sort of area. But yeah, this club is starting to get me excited. Now, the one thing I want to mention is the last 2 years, the results haven't been there on the field. Obviously, finishing outside of the top 8 is below Parramatta expectation, and we are about to knock on the door next season, if we don't win the comp this year, of 40 years without a premiership. So I think that's going to ruffle a lot of feathers. If that does 40 years sort of does come around, a lot of people are going to, I don't think leave the club, but they're going to be quite upset. And look, they're fine to be upset, but the direction that this club is going, you need to understand that some of these risks that the club has taken are massive, and they're probably going to pay off. I'm telling you now that there's going to be payoff for these risks, and some of the right decisions that you may not like, this club has made for the future of the club, not just for short term. And it's really, really nice to see fans once again being the main sort of part of the club, because the club would be nothing without its fans. And 2023 and 2024, it felt very distant from its fans. There were issues in the background. I'm not going to get to those, but right now there's just such a great energy around this rebuild. And I mentioned these players coming to the club. They're exciting players. They're Australian kangaroo-like players. There's been issues with our backline for a long time. I think Tom Opacek was a fantastic centre, and I'm ashamed that we got rid of him. I wish we could have kept him for a couple more years at least. But, you know, having someone like Lomax in the centres, that's where he wants to play, guys. I understand he's a fantastic winger. We've seen it, but we are honouring that deal that he signed with him as a centre. Adokar on the wing, most likely Bailey Simonson on the wing. Haven't really thought of my best 17 yet, but yeah, I'm starting to get excited. The last 2 years I've been trying my best to get excited, but I think the club really wants to get fans to the game for the right reasons. The last 2 years it was just get them in the game, get the numbers up, and then you started to see them go down because the results on the field weren't there. Now, as long as this club stays healthy, I really do think that fans will be turning up in their numbers, and it's going to feel almost like the 2019 sort of season where it was our first year making finals in a while. I'm not saying whether I think Parramatta is going to make the top 8, because that video will not come out for a few months, but I just think there's excitement to be there, and I think fans should start to embrace this excitement. Understand in your mind that these changes needed to come. They could not be just repeating the same old cycle, and the future of this club, at the moment at least, looks very, very good. There's some great signing. There's some great rumours going around. Jaden Brayley potentially coming to the club, having a proper number 9 sort of there as well. There's a lot to be excited about as a Parramatta Eels fan, and this rebuild is about to begin. The playing group has actually turned up to training earlier than expected. Your Moses, your Lomax were expected to come back around the second week of January. They are actually training as of this week, so it's really exciting to see how excited this playing group has become and connected they've become as well, because I feel like even though they were decent on the field combining, there was a little bit of off-field drama in small parts of the club. So it's fantastic to see that. But I want you to let me know in the comments, guys, what do you think of the Parramatta Eels in 2025? Do you think it's all talk? Do you think they'll be a bottom 4 team? Are you excited for this team and the direction that they've gone? And let me know how excited you are for Jason Riles, Eels fans. It's been a long time since we had a new coach, Brad Arthur, the longest regular season Parramatta Eels coach, breaking that record last year. And here we are now with the first season of Jason Riles getting his gig. Make sure you subscribe to this video if you're new around here, guys. Please like the video and drop a comment. At 5,000 subscribers, I will be giving away an NRL membership. I am part of Talking Parra podcast as well. It is the off season, but please do check out the Talking Parra podcast over on Instagram. And I'll see you guys later.